Hey guys, welcome back to the C2C podcast. Coach Andrew here, and this episode is going to be talking about retention, how you can keep more of your clients working with you longer and staying with you, and also referring more people to you inside of your coaching business or your practice. Retention is one of those things that should be something that is very easy, because if you're a professional and you're delivering results and you are having a really great time with your clients and they love working with you, then why wouldn't they stay with you? However, retention is something that most people either don't focus on inside of their business, or it's something that is really difficult for them because there's a lot of moving pieces to actually keeping your clients happy. And I bring this up for today's episode because over the weekend I had this beautiful conversation with someone who is a part of a coaching company. So they do not run this coaching company, but they're one of the coaches inside of the coaching company. And we were talking about business back and forth as usual. I love talking about business even on my weekends off. And he shared with me something very, very interesting, which was the company that he was working with does not have a very high success rate. And they do very well. They do about 100K months. They have a very large team. They have everything from Salesforce and a sales manager. They have a retention specialist. They have coaches that are doing the actual delivery, which is what he's a part of. But as we were talking, he had a growing concern, and the growing concern was that the company was not going to be around long term. And I was like, why is that? And he said, well, very simple. We do not have a high graduation rate. And I was like, this is a big thing for me. Now, he didn't share with me what the number was, but he did say that the graduation rate was less than 15%. And I shared this story and I shared the number because a lot of alarm bells came up for me, just like a lot of alarm bells are probably coming up for you, saying less than 15% is not a high graduation rate. I mean, imagine this. Imagine hiring someone to help you climb a mountain, and they're like, hey, like we get people to the top of Mount Everest, but 75% of you or 85% of you are going to die as you go up this. Like, that's not a high success rate. And I know that that's extreme, but really when you're working with people in their health, when you're working with people with self-development stuff, it is very easy for people to get lost through the process, for them to fall off, for them to not be successful. And especially if you're trying to build your practice online and you want to build a program that has a high level of retention where you're keeping people long term, if you do not treat these people right, if you don't give them results and if you don't give them a reason to stay, ultimately they're going to leave. And some of them, worst case scenario like this gentleman was sharing, may not graduate your program. And that is crazy to me. I have never been someone who's understood the struggle with retention, because every single company that I've run, from in-home training to our physical studio that we had, to the hormone coaching company, to even C2C that I'm running now, every single one of those had well above 90% retention. We had a 92% retention rate for the hormone reboot program, which was absolutely incredible. I loved it. People stayed long-term. We had clients staying with us for more than 6 years. And that is a testament to a lot of things. It's a testament to a healthy system, that the way that the person was being onboarded, the way that they were being treated, the way that they were being checked in on was basically supporting them through the process. It shows that people have a healthy community where they have a space where they can share their issues and share their challenges. And it also shows that we delivered results, because people don't stay for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years if they're not seeing a significant change in their lives or in themselves. And we're talking about retention today because there are a lot of pieces, like I just shared, that go into retention. And when people often look at being able to build a business, a lot of the times inside health coaching companies and practices, people are just focused on getting clients. I need people to simply buy the program. I need people to just walk in the door. I need them to sign up. And then once they're there, I'm just going to deliver. And so the focus is always find more people, find new people, instead of keeping the people that you have happy and keeping the people that you already have staying in your world for a longer period. And I know, especially as a health pro, it's kind of tough because you're like, well, I want to give them the result so they no longer need me. Yes, I will say this 100%. Yes, you do want to give them a result where they no longer need you. That being said, people don't stay because they need you. People stay because they love the community, they love being in your world, they love the value that you provide them. And so they want to stay in the world. They want you to continue to be their leader because it's been working great so far. Why would you ruin a great thing like that powerful relationship that helps them keep growing? That being said, people can't do that if you're not giving them reasons to. So going back to the story of this retention, less than 15%, crazy to me. He had the opportunity to be able to take on and change a role because they thought that the role was just to bring on another retention specialist. It was just to help them figure out a way to keep people staying longer in the program. And the reason why this is a challenge is because most people bring in people with a very big and audacious promise. It is a sales challenge that then becomes a delivery challenge and an onboarding challenge. So before I talk about what goes into really successful retention, I want to show you how you can really screw your retention rate up inside of your business and how you can build a business that will absolutely fall apart if you're not focused on retention first. First thing first, it starts with your messaging in sales. How you attract someone is how they stay. What moves you is what keeps you moving. So if you attract someone from fear, if you attract them from guilt, if you attract them with frustration, so you're guilting them into joining, you're making them afraid of the consequences if they don't join, or you're frustrating them to be like, aren't you tired of being in this spot for so long? You're going to get someone who continuously needs fear, guilt, and frustration in order to move through the process. That is not going to be a client that stays long-term because people do not move from fear, guilt, or frustration long term. And these are the people that cost a significant amount of money to work with. They take a lot of your time, energy, and capacity in your practice. And if you're trying to build an online community, will absolutely kill the vibe of your community because they're bringing that energy in here. So it starts with sales. You need a message that's positive, that's powerful, and that's uplifting, where you can show them what is possible. But this is where the sales process has to get very specific. When you are onboarding people, we don't onboard with promises. So as an example of business coaching, you might see, hey, health practitioner, we're going to help be able to get you to 30K in 60 days or else we're going to refund all of your money. Okay, well, in that moment, what is happening is effectively you are outlining an expectation and a condition that someone is counting on you to provide, which makes them not a self-led person. They say, oh, great, I'm going to step back. I'm going to let this coach do this thing for me. I'm going to let them do all of the work. And then if it doesn't work out, I'm going to get my money back. That shows a level of connection. It shows a level of detachment to, of course, the process. And ultimately, it's going to be very difficult for you to deliver that outcome because they're not fired up and they're not in alignment to actually do the thing. And when you look at it in health, there are a lot of people who attract and they will put out an online program and it's like within 30 days, you lose 20 pounds or we give you your money back, or the first week free, or you don't pay for the first certain amount of time. All of these things to get people to sign up initially is a very low barrier way to get someone who is not right for your world. Self-led people who are responsible for their own results, who know at a foundational level that there takes work, effort, and change in order for them to get to where they need to go, do not respond to any of that messaging because they know that that messaging is bullshit. So when you are creating a sales process for your health practice, for your coaching company, and you're trying to be able to build something online, it's about being truthful upfront. You want to talk about how fired up are to do the work. You want to talk about how exciting it is to go through the process. You want to be transparent and say, listen, this is going to be a change for you, but you know what? You're going to feel fulfilled and you're going to feel so excited and so acknowledged through this process that even though it's going to be work, it's going to be work you want to do. And what happens is people are then going to start to embody your message. So it actually starts with sales. You have to have an aligned messaging, and you have to have a promise and a delivery of your program. So when someone is signing up at the very beginning and they're paying you, they're doing it from an empowered state, not from a guilted, feared, or a frustrated state. Remember, what moves you is what keeps you moving. But here's the thing, sales is only the first part that people get wrong with very cold messaging. Once you sell the person, once the person signs up and they commit with you, the next very important thing that people absolutely butcher is onboarding. Most of the time, a good salesperson can convince anyone to buy anything, right? I think it's like sell ice to an Eskimo, right? And we're hopefully, I don't know, I've never actually met an Eskimo, so maybe they buy ice, who knows? But it's not enough to just sell the person. You also have to onboard a set standard of expectations. So when the person is inside of the program, they do the things required and they participate in a way that grants them the most success. So if you want a repeatable process and you want to give your clients repeatable results, and you want to make sure that as they go through the process, they're having a certain standard in your program, you have to onboard them the right way. And most practitioners and professionals do not have an onboarding process, especially for their online groups and their online programs. So what happens is someone signs up, they get onboarded completely differently. 15 people sign up in a row. 15 people get completely onboarded at what seems to be a random way of onboarding or a different way of onboarding each time. And then inside the group, you get a lot of questions or you get a lot of confusion. Where do I chat? Where do I message? Who do I go to get support? I can't find this. Oh, I thought you were going to send this to me. Oh, I didn't think this is what was involved in the program. And so what happens is now the expectation and the reality don't mesh up. And so you're going to get people who take forever to do what is required in the program. So this is something as simple as like day 2, they should be on doing food, but they've week 2 and they're still doing day 2 shit. And that can't happen inside of a program because it's going to affect their results, which is going to affect their success, which is going to affect their retention. If they do not see a result in a certain amount of time, they stop being excited, they start getting concerned, and they start questioning your process, and they question you. The moment they question you as a professional, you can say goodbye to your retention because you are no longer the go-to person. Especially if they have to start hiring other people, that is a big indicator that you are not being the go-to person for them. So going back to the onboarding. You onboard someone and you don't have a set process. It's not clear where the communication should go. It's not clear what the expectations are. It's also not clear what your beliefs are and how you operate. Most practitioners do not have a set standard of beliefs that they share with their clients, so that way when someone goes in, they understand exactly how to operate in the community and how the highest level people succeed. They don't know how to act. And so what happens in that room is either most of them won't act, or they're going to act in a way that's not going to be in alignment with that container. And especially if you are choosing to run online group programs or a group model of any kind, even if it's hybrid, that's really going to kill the atmosphere and the vibe inside of that coaching container. So everyone has to be onboarded the same way every single time. Now you go through the onboarding. As you go through the onboarding, now this is where people butcher the next step, which is the process of delivery. Just like you need to have a set process for onboarding, most people think, or they start treating all of their clients like they're super special and super individual, and so they do the process of delivery different for every person. It's a different nutrition process. It's a different supplement process. There's no really core course code or core modules. There's no real structure as to what's going on. And so what happens is every person goes through the process a different way. Some get check-ins, others don't. Some miss check-ins or are never followed up. Others are late to appointments and they're never rebooked. And what happens is you have people who start falling off of the process. And when they start falling off of the process, they stop showing showing up to your calls. They start rescheduling more. Maybe they stop being present in the group coaching calls. You get less messages. And these are the people who are going to disappear. They're simply going to ghost. Because what happens is energetically, they've moved on from your program and your process. And that sucks because you've done the work of finding the person, signing up the person, onboarding the person, and the easiest part, which should be the delivery, you just didn't deliver in a way that was consistent to them, so they left you. And like, that is a really shitty thing, because this should be the thing that you as a professional are actually fantastic at. Now, there is a final piece where retention gets butchered. Let's say you go through that process and you're delivering. All throughout the time of delivery, you're never talking about next steps. So many practitioners feel nervous. Well, the person at this point should be able to be on their own, so I'm not really going to tell them. I'm not really sure if they know what the next step is. And so what happens is the person goes through the entire program and they think, well, coach hasn't said what's next, so I assume after this 16-week program, I'm done. That's all there is for me. And they go the entire program anticipating an end, and when the program ends, they say thank you so much, and then they transition away for you. So if you're never talking about next steps, if you don't have any way to showcase to them that there is a continuation, that there is something else that's for them, of course you're not going to be able to retain people because they think that it's over. And here's the thing, talking about next steps isn't just at the end of the program of the last week. You have to start up next steps right from the onboarding process. You have to explain it to them in the sales. You also have to talk about it in your messaging. So retention isn't something as simple as do a good job, provide a result, and then people are guaranteed to stay. No, you have to set all of that up in order for you to have a high retention rate. Now, going through all of that, the last piece where retention gets butchered is results. Now, some of you who are going to be listening to this is like, that's ridiculous. What practitioner signs on a person? What health coach brings somebody on and then doesn't give them a result? You would be surprised. You would be surprised. What is the success rate of your current programs? Most practitioners do not know the success rate. And I can tell you something. I know how many people failed my program within the past 2 years. 8. I know this. Inside of the Hormone Reboot program, there were only 8 people who were unsuccessful, and it guts me. And I ask myself, why? Why out of the 554 people in the past 2 years was that something that didn't work for them? I ask the questions. And here's the thing, you don't have to provide 100% success. That's not realistic. What is, though, very important about the results is if you're not providing results, what are the reasons? And the reasons can be various. So for example, the poor sales, getting someone who's not ready, getting someone who's guilted and feared may bring someone through a process who doesn't want to do the work. And maybe you're coaching someone who doesn't want to be coached. Maybe you're coaching someone that you have to keep convincing on the calls to do the next step instead of someone who is self-led. Well, in that case, them not getting results is their fault, but you brought them into the program. You chose that. And because you sold them, guess what? Now you have to deal with the consequences of someone not being successful in your programs. Now, what's another reason why someone may not see results? Well, maybe they are simply taking too long to apply the tools. Instead of doing day 2's work on day 2, they're doing day 2's work on week 2 or week 4, and they're not being consistent with what is inside. This is where your process has to really lean in. If you don't have a strong process to get them back on track, then they will eventually fall off. Or there is also option number 3 inside of results, which is your process isn't that great. And because your process, and I mean process, I mean coaching, you're not delivering the results that you said you would. You said, hey, look, we can get you 30 pounds down, and they only got 10 pounds down. And maybe they did do all the steps. Maybe they filled all the check-in forms. Maybe they did show up. And to which case, you have to say, what is it about my process and my system for them, my foundational method, that is not working? Most people do not look at these things. What happens is the people who are unsuccessful with the retention rate blame the client. They weren't ready. They weren't consistent. My process works, but for some reason, they were just an outlier. No, that's not necessarily true. So I'll tell you, if you don't know your retention rate, you should look at that right now. How many clients have you lost? How many people have you kept? If you don't know your success rate, how many people went through your program and how many of them were not successful? And by not successful, I don't mean didn't see a result, but maybe you said, hey, I really expected this level of result across the board and only 60 or 70% of them made it through. And that's fine. It's important for you to understand that. All of this affects your retention because you have to be able to deliver a result and you have to be able to get people invested in their journey emotionally, spiritually, intellectually in order for them to be able to actually stay in your world. So that's what kills retention. Here's what makes fire retention. Here's what got me 90% retention rate across all of my programs easily, where I didn't have to work for retention. It starts with messaging. You have to have messaging that speaks to someone who is self-led, who is self-motivated, who is highly driven, and who is excited for the process. I call these people solution-aware people. These are the people who have worked with practitioners and professionals before. These are the people who have done the low-ticket, cheap, bullshitty things, and they recognize the value of working with a professional at a high level. They recognize the value of a community, and they've done the work required and want the result, not because they're desperate, but because they have fallen in love with the process of growth. So as an example of talking with weight loss clients, it's not the person who's like, oh, I desperately need to lose 30 pounds because I want to fit into this bikini. I just need it for this next wedding. That's desperate energy. No, we're talking about the person who goes, look, this is a long-term lifestyle for me. I'm really looking at being able to be the best parent for my children, and 30 pounds down is just the beginning of this journey. So I craft the message just like that. You've done X, Y, and Z, and you've seen great results. But what you want at this point is for you to have something of a long-term solution. You're done with the cookie cutter stuff. You're done with the bullshit one-off fixes, always being on forever supplement protocols, and you want now to be able to make this a sustainable lifestyle. Not because you need it, but because you're committed to this. You've fallen in love with the journey. You've fallen in love with the process. You've seen what's possible for you. You don't just want to lose 30 pounds. You want to lose 30 pounds, you want to run the marathon. You see how that messaging is completely different? And what that does is that pre-frames people to be self-led, highly driven before they reach out to you. And now the way that you hammer that home is the client testimonials. It's the social proof. It's showcasing to people, my successful clients think this way, act this way, and they talk this way. And here's what they have to say. Here's how they went through the program. Here's how they dealt with this situation. And what happens is they then tie success to operating like your successful client. They say to themselves, well, if Sally overcame that thing by doing X, Y, and Z, in order for me to overcome that, I have to be more like Sally. And this is where now we take a client from what I call problem aware to solution aware, the person who is ready, willing, and excited to actually reach out to you for your offers and your programs. Now, once we've changed the messaging, we have to change the sales. The sales is everything from the application process all the way to the discovery call or the DM conversation. It doesn't matter how you do sales. If you like sales calls, amazing. If you like DM convos, amazing. What matters is this. There always needs to be an application to show them that not everyone is accepted. You should have an application that showcases to them clearly that you care about where they are, that you want to know a little bit about them, and that they are ready in a space where it's like, are you ready and willing to invest? You know, how many coaches or professionals have you worked with? So that way, when you look at this, it gives you the option for you to be able to say, are they coachable? And if the answer is no, you should not be giving them the link to sign up, because I would rather not have someone in my program who I know is going to fail, because then they're going to talk shit about me. And guess what? Then they're not going to refer, and less people will be in my program long term, versus bringing that person in, disappointing them, and now all of a sudden, now I have a bad review, a bad testimonial, and I have someone who's wasted their time. So we need this application. We need the application to make sure that they are coachable. From there, it's about being prompt. You, from the moment you book the sales call or you start the conversation in the DMs, you need to be prompt, you need to be concise, you need to be clear with your communication, and you need to show up as the professional right then and there. If you say you're going to send them a message at 6 and it's 8:05 when you send it to them, you've already started this relationship wrong, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. Say that, oh, I've sent you a booking link for the next appointment times in the calendar, and guess what? You don't have any other slots, and they go, there's nothing in this link. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Now, the good news is we can automate a lot of this process now. We automate it for a lot of our clients inside of C2C, so that way this little bullshitty stuff is not the stuff that they have to focus on. But it is something that is important. Even if you're doing DM conversations, for example, the moment you start a DM conversation, finish a DM conversation. The person is already engaged. Don't be that guy who takes 5 days, over the span of 5 days, you're doing one message back and forth. People lose interest. And I know that you guys know this, but it's not about this time, the length of time it took. It's all about how you want someone to operate through the process. And then through the process, in the DMs or before a sales call, get them to do some work. Get them to tell themselves about you. Get them tell you about themselves. Get them to film you a 1-minute video. Get them to listen to a podcast or a training of yours. Because again, you're showcasing to them, hey, the prerequisite to speak with me, the prerequisite to get in is information, it's effort, it's learning, it's growth. So now when they get that self-sign-up link, now when they get that consultation and they're sitting in front of you or virtually they're in front of you, they're saying to themselves, this person wants me here and I want to be here. Then, boom, you go through, sales call, sign them up. Very easy. DMs, sign them up. Not a problem. Next is onboarding. Onboarding needs to be the same for every single person. Starts with an email of beliefs, expectations, and how you operate inside of your containers. Very important. Hey, welcome to C2C. I'm Coach Andrew. I know you know this. I just want to talk with you and say, hey, look, I'm super pumped that you decided to join. But through this process, I do want you to know we have a set of standards that we keep everyone by, because I want the best results for you, and I want you to make sure that you are all in. Here are my standards. X, Y, and Z. Doesn't have to be a long page, but you're showcasing to them your beliefs, how you operate inside of your systems, and you're saying, this is what's important to me. I value your results. I value your relationship, but we have to set up these boundaries up front. And then there's the actual boundaries themselves. Here's where you communicate. Here's when I will reach out to you. I have a 3-hour response rate. This is when I send things every Friday at 2:30 p.m. after our check-ins at Thursday. So that way people have a clear expectation of what is involved. This will reduce and eliminate all of your questions through the process and actually get someone excited, because they're like, holy shit, this person's got their stuff together. I'm fired up. I'm fired up to do the next steps. And then here's another little special thing that you can do in onboarding. Why not partner them with an existing client? Say, hey, client A, I want you to reach out to client B and just say, hey, welcome to the container. This works really good for group programs, not really for one-on-one. Welcome to the container. I've been in here for X amount of times. I understand that you're new. I wanted to send a personal message and say I'm super pumped to be able to see you. Perfect. Now you have someone who's waiting for that new person on the call, and they're really pumped. They're really pumped to actually be there. Now for the delivery, you have to have a clear process moving from onboarding to delivery now. You have to have a clear process of what the result is going to be through your program, what the objectives are to teach them if it is a teaching program, how they are going to change, because results and change is different. You can go through a program, not physically change anything, but not physically give them some type of a result that's tangible, but still change their beliefs, still change the way that they feel. So you have to say results, you have to go the objectives, you have to go what are we going to change? And for that, there has to be a clear roadmap. This is your framework. This is your process. And I had frameworks and processes for every single program. Our Vantage program had a process. Our Hormone Reboot program had a process. Balance your hormones naturally with food. We started by removing IBS and inflammation in the gut. Then we started by increasing people's level of testosterone and balancing out their estrogen so that way they stop storing fat naturally. We did that with food, and then we started implementing activity. It was one of those things that was clockwork, and the framework worked very well because I had an understanding of what the average person was supposed to expect. Now, as they go through that process, there are going to be outliers. There are going to be people who maybe they're following the process and something is not working, or they need additional adjustments here and there. This is where you have the opportunity to be able to offer upsells or to be able to make any personal adjustments depending on how you've designed your program. But there's got to be that framework and the structure put into place. Now, as you go through the onboarding and the framework and the structure, from onboarding, and there was a reason why I'm going back to this now. From onboarding, this has to do with the retention. It's a simple matter of saying, hey, I'm super pumped that you're here for phase 1 of your journey. I want you to know that this is a lifelong commitment, and your journey doesn't just stop after insert program length, 16 weeks, 24 weeks. No, this is the first step in your process, and I'm excited to be a part of your first step. Perfect. What did we do there? We anchored long-term retention later on. Then as they go through the protocol and the process, welcome to week 3. This week we're going to be working on X, Y, and Z. Welcome to week 5. This week we're going to be doing this. And by the way, I just want you to know I'm so proud of you for committing to this lifelong journey. I'm proud of you for committing to this lifelong dream. Actually, there was a client who's been with us for 4 years now who really said that at this point in their journey, they were feeling X, Y, and Z. So if you're feeling X, Y, and Z, I want you to know that that's okay. And again, what are we doing? We are doing an anchor. We are anchoring that the commitment is longer than the commitment that they have in that moment. And then we start saying, I'm actually super excited to bring you into phase 2. I'm excited for what phase 2 offers to you. Have you considered what is going to be after phase 1? So that way we can start getting them thinking through the journey of this initial part with you. That way, when they get closer to the end, you can start introducing options a month and a half ahead of time. You can start having conversations about what the next step is, and they can start talking about it. Hey, I know that I'm halfway through. I'm actually curious, what is phase 2? Can you share with me? This is where they're going to open up the conversations of retention to you. And then finally, results. You have to deliver the results. Result delivery is so important. People need to see a result within the first 3 weeks in order for them to stay. Of all of the numbers I've gone through, at least with the health programs that I've run, if people have not seen a result in week 3, your show up rate starts dropping off huge because people just feel defeated. People don't want to feel defeated through a program. So you have to say to yourself, what could I put up front to be able to deliver a result very quickly, to give them a quick win, to make them feel good, so that way they can say, I can do this. This is actually something I can do. It's working. And then we continue to follow up those results. We continue to celebrate them in community groups. We continue to celebrate them in private chats. We continue to send them private emails just showcasing, hey, I'm really proud of you for sharing that on the call. I'm super excited that you saw X result. And then we can send them little gifts. You guys should also have things inside of your programs or a little bit of an investment or a number for you to be able to give to people. Even if it's something like a journal, what it shows is that you care. And by the way, don't just put this in there and send them some bullshit. Like, don't be sending them like an oversized XL t-shirt and they're like, I'm a small, I can't wear this. No, you know what I mean by sending a gift. Send something that is thoughtful. Send something based from a conversation. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It could be something like, oh, I frequent Starbucks a lot. So it's like, hey, you know what? I went and I got you a Starbucks mug. Something really simple like that is a way for someone to go, this person is paying attention. So one of the things that Lorna and I do, Lorna has an Unstoppable Badass Mastermind Academy, and she sends them a badass mug because they are badasses for joining. And when they get the mug, they're like, holy shit, I am a badass. And it's something that's really simple, but all of this helps with retention. So as long as you do these things and you input them into your process, and yes, it is a process. You have to make sure all of these things are correct. Guaranteed to have a high retention rate at the end. It's not hard to have a high retention rate. It's not hard to keep people for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years in a group program, online, people re-signing over and over again. And you don't actually have to keep adding like new things, special things, bonus this, discount your prices. People will stay as long as you continue to provide value to them and they're in a process where they feel like you care. That's it. So whenever I look towards a business where retention is an issue, it's often because they're so focused on the upfront part of the sale that they don't really care about actually keeping the person. And that is a big tell for a practitioner and a coach. But I know that the majority of the people who listen to C2C, whether it's on the YouTube channel or you're even listening to the podcast, I know that you do care about retention. I know that you want to deliver results to your clients. I know that having people be successful inside of your program is something that you personally enjoy. It actually makes you proud when these people are successful. And I'll tell you, these people don't have to stay with you forever. You will have people who graduate, but when they graduate, they're going to say, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this community, and they're going to refer to you forever. This is how referrals keep coming left, right, and center. This is how your programs keep overfilling and you're like, holy cow, all I'm doing is just showing up for them. I don't know why these people are staying and they keep telling others about it. It's because you're doing all of these pieces right. Retention is the number one thing that actually keeps recurring revenue and keeps your business growing. There's no point in running ads if you can't keep people. There's no point in doing sales if you can't provide results for people. There's no point in condensing your onboarding and you're onboarding 15 people a day if 2 months later 15 people are exiting or they're ghosting you because you didn't do it right. And so when you're working on the online part of your business, you're at this point now where you're at the level of fullness. Most of the coaches we work with inside of C2C, they're at that like 210 to kind of like 95 clients, and it's like a floating number. Like you have people that are there. Can you retain them? Can you keep them? Can you continuously provide value where they will want to stay and want to ask you what's next? If the answer is yes, hey, you're doing it right. If the answer is no, then you and I need to have a conversation, because retention is the number one thing that is actually going to break the ceiling of your business. It's actually not sales. Even if you sold 5 people a week for the next year, you will always lose out to the person who keeps all of their clients. It's just a fact. I mean, if I keep 90% of my clients and you're losing 30% of your clients quarter after quarter because they're finishing up and they're not continuing with you, you're always replacing the same clients that are lost. And so when we work on retention inside of C2C, it's so much more than just, hey, how can we keep people paying you for longer? It's, we got to look at all the systems. We have to look at the sales, the messaging, all of that. But I'll leave you with this as I wrap this episode up. Number one to all of this is you have to provide a result. When I heard that guy say the graduation rate was less than 15%, I was like, that's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for the clients. And I know it's not his fault because it's not his company, but it's a tragedy for those people going through the program because they're trying to do something for themselves and it's not working. And it's a tragedy for the business because there's only going to be so many people and so many negative reviews before people say, I will not work with this coach. And I want you to know something, especially in the online space. People talk and information is everywhere, and all it takes is for them to do one program. One $37 masterclass, one $299 training, one 6-week program for $799. Even if your programs are something like our clients where it's like a 12-week or 16-week and they're charging $3,500 to $5,500, people will pay the first time. But if they didn't get a result or they weren't happy with the process, they will never buy from you again. Never. People stand on principle. They want to work with people that they can know, like, and trust. And that is always what you have to do. You have to be able to deliver what you promised. If you can't, of course, you got to work on that first. But that is all for this episode. Thanks, guys, for listening to C2C. And remember as well, too, we still have a week and a half before the Overflow Upgrade closes. I've been talking about the Overflow Upgrade, being able to build, promote, and push your online program in a group space to be able to sign up clients that doesn't take more of your time. That we still have 4 spots available, and there's a week and a half for those 4 spots. There are 2 bonuses as well too. If you join the Overflow Upgrade, you get client converting content, which is a $2,400 program included, showing you how to be able to craft content that actually attracts high level people. And you get access to No BS Sales, which is a way that you can start prescribing your offer instead of selling it. Good salespeople don't sell. Good salespeople and good coaches prescribe. They're like, hey, you need this, and people take it because they want to be in your world. So you get access to both of those programs for life once you join, of course, the Overflow Upgrade, and that's going to be until, I was going to say January, until July 30th. So we've got about a week and a bit afterwards. So if you have any questions on the Overflow Upgrade, you can DM me on Instagram. Just DM me the word Overflow, or I'm going to drop a link in the show notes for the Overflow Upgrade for you to check out more info. That's all for this episode, guys, and we will catch you on the next one of C2C. Bye.